Hi, I'm Mike McCormick here at GBTA Studio here in Berlin, and I'm here with Eric Tyree from CWT. Eric, welcome.
Thank you.
So, you're the Chief Data Scientist at Carlson Wagonlit Travel. It's a big role, considering the importance of data in these times. So, tell me a little bit about it. Like from a buyer perspective, a lot of times I think this is overwhelming. People have varying degrees of comfort with doing analysis and looking at all the information that's available, but obviously it's critical to steering a program. So,
Sure.
What advice do you give?
Yeah. So I think the challenge people have is they start with the data, and that's like the worst thing you could possibly do.
Okay.
Go the other way. You need to understand what you're trying to achieve with it. Think of data as a tool to be able to achieve things you want to achieve. So start with your company. What's your corporate strategy? Where's the company going? What does it need? How does travel interact with and support what the company's trying to achieve? And then work backwards to some goals you want to achieve within that program that you think data might be able to help you with. Then go to the data.
Right.
Because that helps with the overwhelming feeling, because there is tons and tons of data out there. And travel data is horribly complex. I've been in the data business for 25 years, and travel data is probably about as bad as it gets. So if you try and go to the data first and figure out what you can do with it, you're going to get confused.
You will get overwhelmed.
But if you go to looking at, okay, I've got certain things I would like to achieve and trying to figure out how can I achieve this with data as part of the solution, then you're in a much better position and you can be much more successful.
And set your priorities.
Exactly.
So what are the trends we're seeing? What are, what should buyers be paying attention to in this environment?
Sure. Well, there's a couple of things. One on the predictive side, you want to be looking at your ability to look at things like market conditions and how market conditions impact your footprint with suppliers. If you're on the travel management side, or the procurement side, you also can use predictive analytics for things like trip disruption. And you think about it, it sounds a little bit trivial at first. I want an app that tells me a flight's going to get disrupted. But if you think about it from a traveler's point of view, that's quite important. Because I had this happen on my way out here. I didn't find out until I was almost at the airport and kind of got lucky. I was managed to jump on another flight. But if I had known that, say, 6 hours in advance or in a day in advance that my flight was at risk, I could have taken action a lot of time before. It would have saved me a lot of stress. Now, there's a lot of people working on this, and we're very interested in it, and I think it's an area where you're going to see a lot more activity over the next year or two.
Yeah, it makes sense because, again, that's the pain points, right? And being able to anticipate, knowing in advance a bit of, like you said, if you have those early warnings, it's much easier to adjust your schedule until it's way too late, right? So, good example. So, other ways, there's the trip part itself, but from a buying and purchasing perspective, how can buyers use data more effectively?
Okay, so first thing you need to know is what you're buying and how much you really need and what your negotiating position is. So I'm looking at it from the point of view of a purchasing manager.
Right.
So one of the most critical things they need to understand is, well, how much am I using of a particular supplier? A big challenge that travel managers have, and therefore procurement managers, is they don't actually know this. Because what happens is you've got travel bookings coming through the TMC, and you've got travel bookings coming through on personal cards, corporate cards, so it's on-channel and off-channel.
Right.
If you don't merge that data, so if you're not merging your TMC data with your credit card data, with your expense data, you're not seeing the off-channel spend with suppliers as well as you're seeing it through the TMC. So if you bring that data together, you know what your true footprint is with suppliers, you can negotiate better, because you actually know what your true market worth is. You also know if you're truly getting the corporate rates. Because one of the things that happens when people go off-channel is the supplier may not recognize them as one of your travelers, and therefore they're not giving them the corporate rates they need. So not only can you be in a better negotiating position, but you can also make sure that you're getting the rates you've already negotiated actually delivered to your travelers as well.
So you get that full picture.
Absolutely.
So I've been in the industry a long time. Travel data and travel is complex. But do you have customers, or do you see customers that truly have that full picture of all of their spend? Almost the elusive.
Increasingly, I mean, I was really surprised coming into this industry that integrating that data was not standard, and the reason it hasn't been is that it's very hard to do without a lot of domain knowledge. So third-party data integrators have struggled with it. A lot of companies don't have the domain knowledge themselves, so it kind of sat there as a gap.
Right.
That's now changing. People are starting to do it, and it's a growing market now with both third-party integrators and TMCs coming in, helping people integrate that data, and getting that full picture. So, so it's definitely changing. Definitely seeing it more commonly, and a lot of interest in it.
Yeah, because as long as I've been in the industry, they've been talking about getting that last mile of information and data, and no one ever seems to find the last mile.
Yeah,
just when you think you're done, you're never done.
Yeah, well, and you never are. It's a journey. It never
Right.
really quite ends. But if you can just integrate 75% of that data, you don't even have to get all of it.
Right.
Don't think of it as an accounting system. You're looking at trends. You want to understand roughly where spending's going on, roughly what I'm doing with different suppliers. That's enough to get a lot of value out of it.
Right.
And then what you do is you just work to constantly work better. You add more data to it. For example, you can look at things like corporate KPIs and start looking at what's the correlation between travel and the success of the business. So you can start looking at travel as
which is
investment.
critical. Right.
And that's the important thing, because I think too often people are sitting there saying, thinking of travel as purely a cost center. CFOs come around with the old machete, start cutting it. No one's explaining to them, hey, this is an investment in the business. It's critical to the business, and we can measure in quantitative terms, in monetary terms, what travel's returning to the business.
Right.
Once you have that data integrated, that's very, very easy to do, and suddenly you're having conversations about investment with the CFO, not about cost management, which is where you really want to be.
Well, for being new to the industry, you're speaking our language. So thank you, Eric Tyree from CWT, and I'm Mike McCormick, live at GBTA Studios here in Berlin.